All right. Well, today was a pretty good day, honestly. Um, Very simple for the most part, right? Do a little quick breakdown here because I gotta get going here in a little bit. But we saw that all of this external liquidity was present here in the purple. I had all this marked up for you guys, right, beforehand. I remember taking these shorts last Friday. No, unfortunately, I did not hold. I closed out before the weekend, right? I generally do not hold positions over the weekend. It's just not my style. But hopefully you guys saw how to grab all these entries up to this area here, and then which we turn to shorts after this 10-minute sweep, right, to go back short instead of long again. And how did we know that? Well, we saw it. There was a trend line coming in that also had to get taken out, and which it did. There were a lot of people that were looking around this area for buys as this was the flip zone in order to go long. But it looks like those buys all got taken out and price actually would come lower down to here. So what happened during the day? We came and we mitigated external liquidity down here, right? As you can see, this was building one after another. We did take these longs here in Asia at one point. Now, I always tell you guys after the third phase, right? 1, 2, 3, generally we don't see much of a reaction. However, we have to keep in mind the daily time frame, and we have this nice trend line coming in that needed a little bit of a sweep as we have here. I've had this trend line now marked out for the past couple weeks, right? And if you go back into any of my trading ideas, right, please look back into the trade ideas tab because I put in a lot of high time frame analysis. There's no reason why anybody shouldn't have gotten these longs because here we slipped in to the daily trend, right? And if we go to the 10-minute, very simply, what happens, here's the sweep of the trend, right? We have a bullish engulfing right here. You could have taken this, you would have stopped out. You could have taken this, you would have recovered everything, right? You got to be okay with taking loss. On top of that, like I said before, if you want the best confirmation entries, wait for the candle to get completely engulfed. This candle is not completely engulfed, right? So you already know that you have a lower chance of this actually buying up compared to the others, right? Now let's take a look over here, right? We can see that this candle, this bearish candle, was eventually taken out, break a structure here on the lower time frames. Remember, wicks have candle closures on the lower time frames. So I considered this a break of structure, right? And or a bullish engulfing, and we could have taken this as our entry criteria, right? As a refinement, we could have waited for the low, this candle to get swept. And then just as a 10-minute refinement, enter somewhere around here. Stops being placed somewhere around here for 3.8 pips, right? And then we kind of want to trade back up into the interbank dealing range over here. Now, I just mentioned a big word, interbank dealing range, internal liquidity. It's all kind of the similar thing here. When we first were trading, right, a lot of you were assuming to go long here, and I'll tell you why that was wrong. We just broke internal liquidity, right? And because we just broke internal liquidity and we saw that we needed to sweep this daily trend line, right? It was just building towards my narrative that we had to come back up, mitigate this right here in order to go short. You could have entered more shorts around this area here, and I'm going to show you exactly why that is too. Here we came and we broke this candle low here, right? And if we look back to see what caused it, it was this candle, right? So this was the candle breaking. This was a candle that broke. So in reality of things, we want to take this whole candle. My refinement was just the wicks of this candle right here, right? So that's how we could have entered into more EU shorts, right? Then once we fully swept this trend, that's how we get back into these longs right here. Now, I saw a lot of you looking at GU, right? My first look in GU was actually this internal liquidity right here, right? It was the same exact thing over and over again, same exact setup happening every time. Here's the candle breaking. This is the candle that caused the break, right? So that's what allowed me to take this OB here. You could have simply started entering this candle If you didn't get that entry, you could have entered again here on this candle. Right now, some of you were looking for longs here, right? Again, when the internal liquidity is colliding with the external, we want to trust the internal liquidity more. Also, just based off of the daily cycle, right? We got to look at all the other confluences here. We had and I can bring up the Asian session. We had a nice break and retest, right? And if you remember anything about the daily cycle, you'll understand that we have a break and retest pattern in London. Price is generally going to continue for the rest of the day, right? And also, what else do we know? Our last high time frame sweep was right here. So we know we should be continuing short until we sweep a high time frame area, which if we go out to the 4-hour is not till here. Right, so we know to remain short kind of until we sweep any of these high time frame areas which have not been swept yet. I want to break down another GU position that I took today because I think a lot of you were confused on it. If we come over here, right, we could have seen that we could have taken positions here. These right here with the candles breaking this external liquidity, right? This candle broke the candle before it. Remember, every candle is a range. So I decided to take this out, right? This was the candle that broke. This was the candle that caused the break. Similar thing to what was going on in EU. Here's the candle causing it. All I did was take these wicks as the refinement, right? And that's how I got into, or I didn't get into these, but these would have been the re-entries. Not only that, we also came to touch this liquidity down here. What was the candle caught breaking? What was the candle that caused the break? This one. What was the last internal candle sweep? Was right here, right? So we know our stops are not going to go above this area here. This is where our stops will stop. So we know that this is a likely area for price to short off. Again, why didn't we buy here? This wasn't high time frame liquidity. If we look back up, put on this, I highly recommend these session breaks. If we put on these session breaks, right, look at the 15-minute, what made me reluctant of getting into the buys, and the reason why I didn't get into the buys. This is actually internal liquidity from this day. This right here is the external liquidity because this is previous day lows from this day to this day, which makes this point here external liquidity. So this point here could have been traded a little bit more accurate. My bad. This point here could have been traded a little bit more accurately for reversal than this up here, as this would have been more conceived as internal liquidity rather than external. Really, the main things that I saw today, the best position you could have taken were to these EU buys right here. Like I said, flip between the 15, 13-minute, and 10-minute. You don't just solely have to use the 10-minute, right? Like you could see here on the 15-minute that we had an engulfing, right? We broke above those candles highs at one point, and we could have grabbed any of these re-entries right here. We could have had this as your 15-minute refinement, right? And grabbed, hold on 1 second. Could have that as your 15-minute refinement and grabbed any entries into here, right? So hopefully this goes to show, again, just be patient, right? All you need is one trade. There's always one that's going to happen throughout the day. And as we've seen on the higher time frame, really the best position that was coming at us today for EU was this upwards trending daily trend line. Took a while for price to actually come back to it. And as you can see on the 15-minute, we clearly engulfed. As you can see on the 13-minute, we had an engulfing as well. And on the 10-minute, we also had this engulfing occurring right here comparatively to that bearish candle. So as you can see, there was plenty of opportunity today. You could have ended up shorting the market all the way in the beginning of New York and started buying it right back up again as soon as we saw the daily trend line. And as you can see now, here's price pushing. I had a lot of people ask me, should I go short here? I wouldn't recommend it, right? Especially after sweeping a daily trend. This is a high time frame sweep, right? So we know price should continue to go higher and higher and higher and higher until we have another high time frame sweep. So with that being said, I really hope that you guys have a little bit better of an understanding of today's session, right? Kind of how things played out and whatnot. But overall, pretty good session. I might be a little less active in the VIP chat. I want to focus a little more on my own trading. I've been missing a ton of trades because I'm constantly answering a lot of people's questions. Just hope everyone realizes I probably get close to 50 to 100 questions every hour of the day. All right, and I'm really not over exaggerating that. It's not just people from the VIP community who I do focus on the most, but it's a bunch of other people in the actual general community itself, the free community. And of course, people just generally asking me questions about my trading style, right? So I'm constantly on the phone all day, if that makes sense. And I do other things than just trade, but probably for the next week, I'm really going to focus on my own trading because I missed this position down here that I really wanted to buy. I was on a phone call while this was developing, unfortunately. But yeah, for the next couple of days, I really want to get some trades in, right? Because I was only able to take a couple today, and they were not really the moves that I wanted to catch. So with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next breakdown, and hopefully this all made sense to you. I'll try and come out with another breakdown later today. Maybe going into a little bit more depth into some of the more higher probable positions you could take, right? Like I said, really just focus on the external liquidity, right? These purple lines that are here instead of these gray lines. Yeah, you will miss a bunch of trades that's internal, but at least you're taking the highest probability trades from the external liquidity. Just a quick little recap. If we were just to trade the external liquidity today, what would that look like in terms of a win-loss ratio? Right. Well, if we were just trading external liquidity here, not accounting for internal liquidity, we would have taken the buys here. We would have taken no, we wouldn't have because that was not an instant reaction. We would have taken these buys here. All right. So -1, -2, and then eventually recovery. Right. So that's how we could have just traded the external liquidity if you just want to stick to one style. If we truly were just trading the external liquidity, we only would have had -1 and then recovery, right? Why? Because we were theoretically really waiting for one, these EQD to get taken out, and two, we wanted this trend line to get taken out, which it did, and it swept. So these were really the high time frame confluences that allowed us to get into EU long positions. All right, that's it.